Yes, my name is Rhonda Simmons, and just so you know, I'm not a transplant. I was born and raised here.
Ooh, nice.
So, and then I went away for, I don't know, 35 years. And I was called back, not by a human voice. I've lived life on purpose where when I get a universal call, I go. My base for um, many, many years has been BC. And so I would bounce from there, I would move from there, I would leave to travel from there. And uh, so I got the call universally 10 years ago to come back here. And I didn't want to. I just did not want to. And it kept getting stronger and stronger. And I have my only child, a daughter, who lives in the eastern states in Connecticut. And so that added to me coming back home to New Brunswick because it was the first time since she had gone out on her own that we lived relatively close, although in different countries, because her and I have lived in different countries um, most of our lives. So I came back 5 years ago, and it's been quite the journey. It's been a very interesting journey. And when you hear the term art saves your life, it saved mine for the last 5 years being here. I am, and I call myself an art witch, and I have a very, very deep, strong bond with making and creating. And not only with objects, but kitchen and also the garden. I grew up in a large family. There were 11 of us children. And the philosophy that was modeled to me was make it, bake it, grow it. And I have lived that way all of my life and before it became a trend. So I just knew it as my lifestyle. I've always been an artist from a young child. I've always created something with my hands. And I started with pottery. And I had a deep affair with pottery. And I was homeschooling my daughter. And I taught the local homeschoolers, which was in BC. And one thing led to another, and pottery left my life. Even though I wasn't ready for that, it was. And somebody said something to me that was very simple, but I can be a tad stubborn. And she says, well, you just need to choose something else. And to all of you, that's a really simple statement. To me, it was like, what? And what showed up in my life were lots of little things. Barbie dolls, toys, books, different, books that had been really beat up. And I fell in love with assemblage work, which is taking a lot of found objects, and I would do sculptures. I would upcycle, reimagine, repurpose, and I've been doing that for quite a number of years. But my greatest love in the art are creating altars and shrines. And I've been doing that for quite a number of years. I facilitate, I have private sessions with people who are wanting to create an altar in their own personal space. And so I work with you for 2 weeks. It's online. We have 2 Zoom calls, unlimited email, and I will take you through setting up that sacred space in your home. So in my little one-bedroom apartment, which is my live-work space, I just have shit everywhere. Not everywhere, but I do have some organized shit, and then I have the rest of it, like, ask Melinda. I love creating the altars. It means a lot to me. And I got that love, I think, I grew up attending an Anglican church, and I was always quite taken with the altar. And then I got to go on my dream place, which I believe that I probably was maybe Mexican and a Spanish in a past life. So I went to Mexico the first time and traveled around for 7 months. And I was there to research altars. Thousands of pictures, thousands of miles, but it's a big country, and I just didn't realize how big it was. But 7 months was still not long enough. And then I had to cross a rising river to get to the other side, and I lost my camera and all of those pictures.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you.
And it broke my heart. But I had them in my mind, I had them in my heart, I had them in my soul, but I couldn't share it with people. And that really got me revved up to learn as much as I could about altars and how they are used. And when I facilitate it's called Altar Talk, the private sessions, what I'm encouraging is for someone to have an active altar. So, and an active altar is one that you go to every day. In my case, I go to mine every day and I light a candle. Or, I'm at that altar for full moon, or I'm at that altar, like the last week I've been at that altar a lot because I applied for a Canada Council art grant, and we're supposed to know any day now. So I'm at that altar every day, I got it lit up. So it really helps me. My practice is eclectic, but I'm a Deanic witch, which is extremely women goddess centered. It does not make me a man hater. It's just like that is my choice and that is my connection. And in my work, you will see women. And you will see goddesses, and you will also see people that look like me, brown. So that's my identification that will go into my artwork. I'm gonna talk about some of the pieces. The one on the end is my kitchen altar with the drawers. And in the drawers, if you open the drawers, I encourage you open the drawers, there's recipes in the drawers. And that piece is over 20 years old. And that is not an active altar, even though it's in my kitchen, it is not one that I interact with on a regular basis. I acknowledge it, but I don't interact. It's in my kitchen and there it stays. And it's still a very important altar in my life. So let's jump. It's another altar, and this one is Guadalupe, which is, as we know, in Mexico. And she is absolutely revered in that culture. Everywhere I went, I would go down an alley and there would be a shrine, an altar, and someone would tend that every day. And they'd have flowers, and they would light that candle every day. You'd go to the market, of course, it's a Catholic country. You go to the market, and they would cross them, I'm not Catholic. But anyway, they would cross themselves before they entered the market, and they would acknowledge her. So I studied a lot I was able to witness and observe and ask questions. It was absolutely amazing. And I remember one time being in Mexico City and getting off of the subway, and I had to do a double take because somebody had Guadalupe strapped to their back. I go, wow, that's some really serious believing. That's serious. But they really took it very seriously. So this particular one, this is also an old piece, and it's an old croquet board that somebody had given to me, and so I fashioned it into one of my altars. The one in the middle is, as you can see, it's a tiny free library. Now, I think the correct name, the legal name is Little Free Library, but that is copyrighted, and I had to change it to Little Free Library. But I created 20 of those. I did a show at Gallery on Queen, was that last year, Melinda?
I think so.
Yeah, at Gallery on Queen, I did 20 of them, and they're all each very different because I just love the free libraries. I love it, love it, love it. And I'm somebody who likes to read quite a bit. So this one is relatively new, and the tea set, and it is called the Muse. And that is, if you go on my website, on my blog, I talk about my history with tea and how that played a major role in my life growing up. Like, I had a seat at the table with the women, and it was an amazing, I didn't know then what it was, I was just a child, but it was an amazing ritual and ceremony every time that tea, from the time it was boiled to the time it was poured. So this tea set is part of a larger vision or a dream, and I'm just going to leave it at that until it can be realized, and then I can talk about it more. And this little baby is a vending machine. And in fact, it's an old tampon and Tampax machine. And that's one of the things I also did in BC is I did public art. Public art was really important to me. And this project was realized, it's dating me, in 2005. And I have 9 machines, and they have not been active in a long time. The premise why I did this particular project was I believe that art should be affordable and accessible to all. So you put your $4 in this vending machine, and out pops this little box. And in it is some random piece of art that was made by a maker or an artist. And so when I was living in BC, I had these I was in the Vancouver area at that time living. I had these in various retail businesses and nonprofit organizations, and I had a number of artists that would do the work. And I've held on to these machines all these years so that I can put them in a permanent spot in a space where I live. So I wanted to resurrect it here in Fredericton, and it just wasn't working. It wasn't working. And so I just had to leave them in storage in my place until the right time comes around. So those are some of the projects. I like, what do you call them, shadow boxes. I call them story boxes because I have lots of little bits and pieces. I like to tell a story. My work, again, tends to be women-centric. There is definitely, at times, a political tone in my work, and I don't shy around. My stuff isn't always pretty, but that's art, right? It's not decorator art. My art isn't decorator art. I don't know what more that I can say, but that's just a bit of who I am. Melinda was the one, I've known Melinda for many, many years before I even came back. And in my first 2 years here, Melinda gave me the opportunity to, for my work to be seen. And I did a couple of art residencies, and I was doing Black culture work because, gee, that was around the time where Black Lives Matter. Yeah, right. So I did Black cultural work, which was a real, it was a real challenge for me because it had been in my idea books is that I needed to do more Black work. So coming back here, it pushed me in that direction, and it has been a really good direction for me, which I hope to continue whether I'm here or not. So I tend to be a private person by choice and circumstance. With technology, I have a love-hate relationship with it. I don't tend to use it like a tool like other people do. It's not my thing. I'd rather be able to talk to people with beating hearts and not through a screen. The other type of artwork I do are installations, where I take a room and I transform the room. One of the shows I did was called Soulmate, and I was going to art school, and 2 years later I did this show, Soulmate, S-O-L-E. If you can find your beloved through a computer screen, why can't you find your soulmate, S-O-L-E, through a pair of shoes? So I took the gallery and I turned it into a high-end shoe store. And so when you walked in, you could go over into the corner and you could pick up the shoes, and on the bottom of the shoe was a profile, was a person's profile. And other shoes that I had an art supporter who she was a world traveler, and she had loved shoes. And so I got some really interesting shoes, and one pair of the shoes were, if I'm wrong, Melinda, let me know, but, was it the Japanese women who used to bind their feet? Yeah, I had those shoes, and they were like this big. And I was just horrified to think of what those women went through, but these shoes were just fascinating. And so it was like a shoe store. I had a computer set up where you could do your match with another pair of shoes. You put in what your shoe was. Somebody helped me with a database to sit in, to cross-reference. So if, I put in Doc Martens, I'm gonna meet the woman of my dreams, it would match up. It would give me 2 or 3 choices. And it was really interesting because the younger generation would come in and they say, is this for real? And what I was being extremely facetious because I just didn't get the whole thing of meeting someone online. I didn't I couldn't connect with it personally myself. So I wanted to create a show around that to kind of show how ludicrous it is, By no means am I trying to offend somebody. If it works for you, it works for you. But it just wasn't my thing. So that's another type of show that I do is installation. I'm an expressive arts facilitator, so at one time, I used to do a lot of workshops. But in the 5 years that I've been here, I haven't done any of that because I just have not connected with people. So all of that has been on hold. So I just think that's probably about it. Are there any questions? And I hope it made sense and I probably was all over the place. Go ahead, Rowan.
The tampon box project,
Yes.
what was not working? Because that is such a cool project. Like, I love the shoe thing.
What was not working for here?
Yeah, why wasn't it getting off the ground?
Although I was born and raised here and I came back after 30-some years, I'm an outsider and I am treated as such. I have been around, I've lived in different countries, provinces, states, whatever. And I'm very outspoken, I'm very direct, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I have ideas, and they just spill over, and it just has not gone over well here. I'm not bitter. I'm not, I'm just frustrated, I'm really frustrated. So, and I'm also very particular about where certain things are going. I'm not a trend and neither is my art and what type of art that I do. So I just, yeah.
I see that as something that would create community. I see that as something that would be like a way to reach out to the community that you haven't seen yet.
It would, it just has to be in the right space. And it's not just any space that sometimes that it can go in. Mind you, I did have it in BC when my daughter was younger in a women's sex toy store. And it got a lot of press. Like it got a lot of press in that particular, they approached me and I just said, okay, it's a women-owned business, it's women-centric, yeah, sexuality, yeah, okay, let's do it. So I did have a place set up here and I got the runaround and it never went through. So I just shoved it all in the closet.
Right.
I shoved a lot of the stuff and this one over here, she is always pushing me, you should do this, you should do that. And I've paid my dues in a lot of ways and a lot of different things that I've done in my life. And sometimes I'm just not on repeat.
I'm an artist, and I would be very interested in participating in a project like this.
Yeah, and I would love, I had hoped to resurrect it. I had really hoped to resurrect it. And so I'm deciding what to bring tonight. I mean, it could have gotten really out of hand. We could have.
Believe me.
It could have gotten a little crazy. And for some reason, there it was, sitting there, and I just said, okay, you're coming along with me. Because I think that it was a project that I loved. And I went to festivals, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And why I got these ones in particular, they're now vintage, is that I could fix them. I could do the maintenance on them. And projects, art vending projects are all over the world. They are all over the world, and so I was very active in that world for a while, and I haven't been for a number of years.
That's brilliant. Did
Yeah.
you approach the craft school?
No.
That would be something.
No.
You've been to the craft school?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was in my 30s, I went to the craft school. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and I'm not saying this to be rude. We have to understand that there is other art outside of the craft school.
I
And
didn't go to
that-
the craft school.
Okay,
so-
but that is the issue in this city, is that it's always the craft school, and there is no room for other art. And my art is fringy and different. And it just has not taken off in they have enough, the craft school has enough, they don't need me. Or they don't need that.
What about craft MD?
I
Mm.
haven't.
Yep.
All my connections and everything, like for grants, everything I live here, but I don't apply for anything here in this province or this city. Because I just have not been received. I have not been well received. And it's like, I'm offended. Because, I was born and raised here, and this is how you treat your people? Anyway, don't get me started, Rowan.
Okay. Well, I want to get you started because
Yeah.
I'd like to see, like, your projects are amazing. I mean,
Thank
like, what
you.
you're telling us is like,
Thank
ooh,
you,
I get so
dear.
excited
Thank
about
you.
it.
Thank
Like,
you.
I look at your altar with the Lady of Guadalupe, and I notice that it's 8-sided.
Yeah,
and-
well, I didn't do that on purpose.
But that's like,
Yeah.
like 8-side, like specifically that shape
Yeah,
actually calls in spirits.
Yeah.
So, like houses that have turrets that are in that shape are usually very haunted because it's
Oh.
it's like a magnetizing box for spirit.
yeah,
So do you see altars as like portals
I
of
do,
places?
I do. And I think that
And do you
they're
also
really
see
good.
altars as different, like that they have different things that they do? They're not a portal, they're like something like your kitchen.
They're all, and that's the really fun thing when I get a chance to work with others to create that sacred space. And it's all perspective. It's all a matter of perspective, whether it's a soul perspective, heart perspective, and the brain comes in last. So, but they're all really different. And I am so passionate about altars. Like that's been my thing. I did a show, my last show before I left BC, it was called Alter Ego. And my friend had died, and I dedicated part of the show to him. And I had an interactive altar up with my cauldron and a few other things for people who had experienced loss. I just asked if they write their name out and put it in the cauldron or leave a few words. And then I did, private ritual to, in remembrance, in memory, and also to let them go. And many of my friends that came to that, they know me, but they were really surprised when they saw this work. Like one friend was like, she was standing there crying. I go, what's wrong? Did somebody talk to you in the wrong way? You tell me, who is it? Let me take care of it. And she goes, no. She says, I just can't believe the type of work that you did. And so I really would like to do alter ego too, and do another, have the opportunity. I'm also an artist who likes to work big. Yeah, that's not very realistic when you live in a little one bedroom. And, but I did a big big piece. I didn't bring it with me, but I did a big piece. And I also have a 5-foot garden goddess. She's a mosaic goddess.
You've got
And
3
she's
of
a
them.
big-
You have 3 of them.
No, you have the mosaic, the glass one.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the glass one. And she's big like me. And that is the one time I will say she's colored. Because she is. She's all different colors, right? But that's the only time I will use that word is she's a colored girl, you know? And I bought all this stuff, what, $5,000, $6,000 later, I bought a lot of this beloved stuff back for me. But I don't have the right space where I can have live and work, but separated. And now we all know what the reality of trying to rent anything out there is. Yeah. So I'm not sure what that looks like, but I'm getting to the point. I really I grew my place the minute I moved in. So yeah, but thank you for the support of that. I love this.
Yeah,
one.
I love that.
Are there any other
I
questions?
can think of like 3 spots that those would be amazing in.
Huh?
I can think of like 3 spots where those would be like absolutely amazing in.
Where?
Not in the city, because I don't like Fredericton either.
Where?
Like Gagetown, down in the village. There's a couple spots down there. And I was actually just at a cafe in Halifax on the weekend, and like that would empty out in a day there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that I'm not seeing this type of a project, not throughout the Maritimes or the other